quiet on this set, everybody. Here we go.
They're the idiot philosophers. Charlie Wilde and Slats Overspeed. Unqualified sages, advice you shouldn't heed. Pontificating unclear thoughts, it's plain to see. I didn't want to sing their song, but they begged me.
Man, I could watch this all day. Welcome to the Idiot Philosophers podcast. Charlie Wilde and Slats Overspeed, or if you prefer, Charlie and Kip. And if you're absolutely brilliant, you've probably discovered that the title, Idiots Get the Blues, is not about being down or depressed at all. It's talking about the Blue Angels, and we got one. Andy Talbott's here with us, and it looks like Kip actually has a friend. Can you explain a little bit about who Andy is? Because we talked about him in a previous podcast, said this guy was going to be on. Can you tell us what he does, why he's here?
So addressing the friend thing, yes, it's nice to have more than one friend now.
Don't forget your cat.
Yeah, not my cat. So with what I do, it's pretty interesting because sometimes you'll show up most of the time and you actually won't have ever flown with a person you're working with.
And let's just remind everybody that you are an airline pilot.
I am an airline pilot. I don't just sleep in a Holiday Inn and say I'm an airline pilot. I really am. So anyway, back to where we were.
Yes.
So I walk up to the gate, and, when you sign in, you go to the gate, and you're going to meet the crew, and then you're going to walk on the plane. Well, up walks this very well put together young man. And we banter back and forth a little bit. We go down to the plane. We start doing our duties. And, before you know it, you're flying along. You've got a little break in the action, and you start going through this non-formal script that happens among airline pilots. It's like, where are you from? Are you married? What'd you do before you got here, etc. Well, Andy, surprisingly enough, he's like, well, I live in Tulsa. And I'm like, wow, I live in Tulsa too. I'm like, what'd you do before you joined the airline? And he goes, well, I was, flew in the Navy. And I go, were you a boat guy or a land guy? And he's like, oh, I was on the boat, east or west, because you kind of learn what the guys do, So if you're on the boat and you're hitting the fleet, you are a West guy or an East guy, and that just is like East Coast or West Coast guy. And then come to find out, because he's so squared away and good at what he does, I think I was just teasing you about being a Blue Angel, and you're like, yeah, I was on the team. I was kind of like, oh, pressure's on. The Blues. We had a great trip together, really kind of hit it off, and it's been nice to meet somebody that lives close by. As Andy can tell you, being an airline pilot, it's not real conducive to making friends, people that you can meet and have a coffee, go out to, do stuff with. Right. Unless you live in a place where is considered a domicile or hub for airline pilots.
Now, you guys live in Tulsa, but you fly out of Dallas, right? I mean, that's where you're based.
Correct.
That's a commute.
A lot of it is because we don't work like anybody else. We were just sitting here talking about trips and stuff, and Andy's like, well, I'm gonna have to go back to work. Andy's on reserve, which is an on-call pilot, and I'm a line holder, which means I fly a regular schedule. But what I do is I drop my entire schedule, and then I just cherry pick the trips I want. And Andy, being
I'm getting leftovers right now.
Yeah, Andy being fairly new, the stuff he cherry picks is most of the stuff people are like going, oh man, that's going to be hard to do.
It's pretty hard to wrap my head around the fact that a former Blue Angel pilot is paying his dues with an airline. I'm like, my gosh. Don't they know what they have sitting in the cockpit there? Come on.
Yeah, he's doubly paying his dues because he was flying with me, number one.
Well, yeah. That's more than paying dues. That's punishment.
Yeah, thanks.
It's all about starting with a new company, and reinvesting yourself. And the history
Yeah.
is history, and it's all about the future. And so,
Tell us a little bit about your start in flying. When did you first get the flying bug?
I was 4 years old.
4.
Yeah. My folks were very were doing things right, and blue-collar workers worked hard. And my brother was born. He's older than me by a couple years. They saved their money for a couple years, and they took my brother and I both, 3 or 4 years down the road after I was born, to the Kennedy Space Center down in Florida,
wow.
Disney trip and things of that nature. And we flew down, and I'll never forget standing in the terminal at the big window, watching outside, and this huge chrome silver aircraft pulls up to the gate. It was massive. Looked like a skyscraper with wings to me as a 4-year-old. And I was just amazed, blown away. And all I could think was, we're going to miss this flight. We better hurry up and get on. We better hurry up and get on, as everybody's getting in line to get on the aircraft. And so we fly down to Disney World and Kennedy Space Center. And I remember a little bit about Disney World, but what I mostly remember is the Kennedy Space Center. And I remember being down there and seeing all the exhibits and being out there. And I knew at that moment, this is what I want to do one day. I want to be a fighter pilot and, fly for the rest of my life, time I got home. And that's all I ever thought about since I was 4 years old. So,
Not just a pilot, not just flying planes. You said to yourself, I want to be a fighter pilot.
yeah. And full disclosure, I didn't really tell anybody I wanted to be a fighter pilot when I was in grade school, junior high, and high school, especially living in rural America. I was almost embarrassed. I thought people would laugh at me because I thought it was something so far-fetched that was impossible for where I grew up. And then I left and started rapidly pursuing it. So
This was one of the highlights of my childhood. Every time I would get on a plane, which was not very often, but when we go, we get those little sets of wings that the airlines gave out. Remember those?
yeah, absolutely.
Are those
Wow.
still in the budget?
They
Once
are.
in a while, you'll run across somebody that's got them, and they aren't the good wings. They're
plastic.
little plastic things that, you're lucky if they'll make it through the flight, as in hold together, Did
right.
you get them when you went on that trip?
When I was a kid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, back in the day, what they do though now, which is pretty neat, I will say, is sometimes they will have in what they call the passenger service kit, little logbooks for first-time flyers. No, it's pretty neat. It's a little logbook, and you fill it out, and then you give it to the person, and for their kids, and if they ever fly again, you can kind of keep track of how much flying you do as a child. Have you filled one of those out yet?
I haven't.
When did you start to tell people, or what happened with you? Did you have people around you that supported you at that point, or were you just kind of on your own?
I'd always tell my parents about it. And, my dad, when he was a kid, he started trying to learn how to fly, and then funds ran out and things of that nature back when he was 18, 19 years old. So he had an interest in aviation. So he shared that interest with me as well. But yeah, I shared that with my parents. I shared that with my friend, actually my oldest best friend. Subsequently, we've married sisters. That's a whole nother story. But he has a big farm ranch in western Oklahoma. And him and I always talked about growing up together and flying together. So we always shared that mutual interest. Still trying to get him to get his private pilot license now. But I shared that. And as I was growing up in junior high and high school, I worked 2 or 3 jobs at any given time, saved my own money. And, problem solving back in the day, we didn't have iPhones and electronic devices. I found a phone book, if anybody knows what that is, up in Sedan, Kansas, and looked up Bartlesville, Oklahoma airport. And gave him a call and said, I'm 16, 17 years old, and I want to learn how to fly. And he was just the airport manager. He goes, well, I don't know how to fly either, but you can call the FBO. And I was like, well, what's that? So he gave me a phone number to the fixed-base operator there in Bartlesville, and I called down there and got a hold of a gentleman that refueled airplanes and said, well, I don't know how to fly, but here's a contact for a couple of flight instructors. And I called one of them out of the blue, and we ended up being lifelong friends. And God bless him, he's passed away since, but he was a retired gentleman from Phillips, and he took me on as a student. I showed up there, my first lesson, and my parents didn't even know I went. And I believe I actually soloed before my parents even knew I was taking flying lessons at the time. So,
Wow.
driving back and forth, had my money saved up, and pursued my private pilot's license while I was in high school.
Boy, if you couldn't get a date with a private pilot's license, did you ever use that? Because I know I would. I know Kip would.
Yeah, I think I took a couple girls in high school flying. It was
Did
fun.
you really?
I did, yeah.
So when I was in the Army Reserve in Norman, I was one of the guys that was kind of my supervisors in this deal had a daughter, and she was going to OU at the same time. And he kept trying to set us up. You know, I acquiesced because he kind of was my supervisor, but he was a nice guy. Anyway, so I called her up one day and I said, hey, I've got a couple, like 30 extra bucks. I'll take you flying for, like 45 minutes or whatever. And she's like, okay, yeah, that'll be great. Shows up at the airport. We hop in this little Piper Tomahawk, and I'm flying along, and I mean, you can only do straight and level for so long till you're just about to fall asleep. I was bored to tears. So I'm like, if you don't mind, I'm just going to do some...
See what this baby will do?
Practicing some things,
Yeah.
So the guy that gave me my check ride was real big on doing wingovers. But I kind of looked over at her, and she wasn't doing well. She's like, I don't feel so good. Headed back to Norman, and we're just about there. And as you get down, it kind of gets bouncing around a little because of the air. Oh, my. She ate spaghetti before the flight.
I firmly believe strategic times, the good Lord puts people in your life at the right moment. And, there's a gentleman in Sedan, Kansas. He had a grocery store. It's a privately owned, family-owned grocery store. And he was kind of the local that had an airplane. And in Sedan, Kansas is a little bitty grass strip, essentially a hangar next to it, and that's about it. He took me on my first plane ride, a Cessna 210. And I remember I climbed in that thing. I thought it was monstrous. I thought it was huge. I was
Nice
a little
airplane.
bitty kid. I must have been... I don't know. With the exception of the airline flight, but a small airplane. It was my first flight, and I was probably 8, 9 years old, maybe. And he flew us from Perry, Oklahoma to Stillwater, Oklahoma. We went out to eat to Eskimo Joe's.
Cool.
So, yeah, it was a good time. Definitely one of my mentors there when I was younger when it came to flying. So.
With your flying career, you worked for it. I mean, you weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth, were you?
No, not at all. My parents were blue-collar workers, and, whenever I was growing up in high school, my brother and I were kind of, we both had our own jobs, and we were a little bit on our own program, and, loved my parents to death, and at times we all go through different chapters, and they were pretty disconnected at the time. And so, we saved our money and we had our own jobs. And so, when I was in high school, sometimes we're at home grilling our own steaks, and making our own dinners and things like that. And so as I pursued on and went to college, same thing, same story. It was not anything that was remotely given to me at all. I was working 3 jobs through any given time through college, and I had no idea what I was doing. All I knew was I wanted to serve my country, and I knew I wanted to be a fighter pilot. I wanted to fly, and just underneath being a fighter pilot, I always thought it'd be neat to be a Navy SEAL. So I knew I wanted to be something that was strategic, something that was on the pointy end of the spear, and very precise execution of a job. And I was in high school, and I was actually talking to recruiters, in the Navy and Marine Corps, and they said, I told them what I wanted to do, and they're like, well, you got to be an officer to do that, and then to fly. And I was like, well, what's an officer? Like, well, you got to go to college. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to college. I'll talk to you in 4 years. Mm-hmm. And so took the ACT test, SATs, whatever they're calling them now, but back then it was ACT. Did not do great, and I was relearning how to study. And because I was in high school, full disclosure, I was not the greatest individual, and some of the teachers are probably surprised this day I made so many accomplishments that I did. But I was partying a lot in high school and throwing the parties, and I was the guy that was popular in that aspect, Mm-hmm. I was involved in football and things of that nature too, but had a lot of the kids coming over doing things we probably shouldn't have been doing. And I'll never forget my junior in high school, my 18th birthday party. We're out in the pasture, lots of friends around. If you can imagine that scene and what it looked like, I woke up Easter Sunday morning and I had a moment of I believe the Holy Spirit went on me. speaking to me and saying, you have a life ahead of you that is going to be amazing. And from that moment on, I really changed and started trying in high school. And my senior year, I did really well. But really, by that time, my GPA was suffering so bad, I kind of almost just sustained it and ended up getting accepted to Kansas State University and went up there to their aviation program. And there's a lot to that story, too. Once I got up there financially and struggling and kind of navigating that struggle out, too.
What fueled you to keep going? I mean, you had that epiphany when you were in high school, and it sounds like it seems unachievable, like you said, but what was it that drove you?
I sat there in a small town community of America and kind of coming back from the family I came from, and I just wanted to make a difference in this world. I wanted to be part of something bigger than myself. And, whether it was divine intervention or whatever it was, but I had this spark in me that from when I was 4 years old and going through high school that I wanted to leave my hometown, and I wanted to go out and be somebody, make a difference, and live that kind of story and live that dialogue. And I wanted to go out and be a hero. And it wasn't about me. It wasn't about Andy Talbott. Look at what I can do. It was about making an impact, because I vowed to myself and made a commitment to myself that if this all works out and I do something great in this world, that I wanted to help others along the way and use my personal vessel to make an impact and help others any way that I can. And that's what drove me. And I had this relentless pursuit of desire and focus. It's something that's undescribable. And all the way from, I graduated high school through college, all the way through my military career. And, when I was in college, all I did was study, fly, work out. And the partying thing, I could take it or leave it in college. It wasn't a thing for me. And all I could think about was my goal and using myself as a vessel to help others and being part of something bigger than myself. And it was just a fire that would not go out, even to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, the impact that a Blue Angel pilot has on kids, I've seen the Blues fly a couple times, and they're so good about getting out there on the line after they fly and signing autographs, shaking hands, and the kids are just beaming because you're superheroes to them, aren't you?
One of the most important things about being on that team is finding your relief. And it takes the right person with the right heart to be able to do that, to remain grounded, to remain humble, and to be part of an organization like the Blue Angels, to know that being part of that organization is not about, look at me, I'm Andy Talbott, I'm Blue Angel, I'm on the cover of every social media channel there is. It's about leaving a legacy. It's about having the Blue Angel vessel to show a culture of excellence, to inspire, to teach people that somebody like me in a little bitty town in the middle of nowhere with zero financial support really growing up when it came to college, or leadership guidance, and the gap that I had, can do anything they want. And to kind of circle this all together or wrap it all up is, for kids out there, as you're out there on the crowd line and being a hero, but one of the things that fueled it most for me was adversity. I always use the term, adversity is university. Like, as you are going through adversity, you are in learning mode. You are gaining wisdom. And if people can see that perspective when they're going through tough times in their life and what it's going to look like when they come out the other end, they're just going to be so much more full of wisdom, resilience, armor on themselves to make a difference in this life. And, to reiterate that, the hero to children out there, it was a gift. That is a gift, being part of the Blue Angel organization. And so one of the most important things we would do is find our replacements to continue that legacy, to continue the groundedness, to being humble, but to really putting something in front of yourself, being part of something bigger than yourself, and not making your position on the team be about you, if that makes sense.
That's so special and humbling to just hear. But then when when you get on the ground and you're dealing with the people that do it, there's a lot of adoration.
Could go to somebody's head.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's happened, right, in the past. And that's not just the Blue Angels, but that's everywhere.
No. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's okay. We're all humans. We all make mistakes. And but if you make those mistakes and you learn from them, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Well,
Well, I'd like to just ask you questions about the brotherhood, because you have got to have that as a part of the Blue Angels organization. But just remind everybody, this is the Idiot Philosophers podcast, and we are talking to Andy Talbott, slot pilot for the Blue Angels. And we'll come back with him. We'll address that brotherhood thing right after these messages from our sponsors.
Are you kidding? You guys don't have any sponsors?
Sorry, we don't have any sponsors. So
What?
let's just move on to the brotherhood. I know.
we're sponsored by Pine View Ranch, by the by.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. So the brotherhood, Kip and I talk about this because we're older gentlemen. We have been friends for over 50 years, and sometimes for guys, especially, it's usually the women. If we're married, in my case, I was married, but it's like the women have the social circles that we get to be a part of, and for guys, it's not that easy. But when you're in an organization like you are, where your life depends on the guy on your right and the guy on your left, that's just got to create. It's almost like going to battle, and you see, people come back from that changed and as family after it's over. Is that the case with the Blue Angels?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, the Blue Angels. And not only the Blue Angels, but even in the aviation community and the Navy in general, from being deployed together, spending 9 months on floating at sea in an aircraft carrier, flying missions together, whatever phase or, campaign that may be going on while you're on deployment, and that trust and that brotherhood and sisterhood, for that matter, even in the Navy, is undescribable. And that's actually, since I retired in January, one of the things that I have had to go through, and adversity equals university, nothing tremendous, but just really learn to navigate life without going to work each and every day with that camaraderie and that connection and that brotherhood. And it doesn't necessarily happen overnight. And there is a lot of applied kind of blind trust with each other in our business. But that blind trust is not just there as a snap of a finger. It's all built off, you want to say good dudeness or good dudetness, however you want to say, but just being good people, and that's all part of your character and your heart and that foundation. And then it also goes with the leadership from top down. And that's kind of like being a husband and a father. And it's the same thing with leadership in the Navy. It's like when you see somebody that truly makes you feel like you're part of the organization, just by the everyday interactions, by how they talk to you, by how they remember the smallest things about your life. And it doesn't have to be anything tremendous, but, just, your kids and what they're into and how you can relate as a leader. Makes you feel part of that organization, which creates that camaraderie, which ultimately creates buy-in whenever you're treated that way from leadership. But to kind of answer your question specifically for the Blue Angels, the greatest teams that have come and gone in the Blues, it's all about the brotherhood and sisterhood and the camaraderie that's been built during that time frame on the team. And the Delta from 2015, we have a chat that we always talk to, just like a lot of people have friends on chat, like on your text message. And I would easily say, and it is a lot of sarcasm, it's a lot of giving each other a hard time, but it's an all good company because we are like brothers, and we are there for each other no matter what, a drop of a hat and a blink of an eye for each other's families. But I would say we're talking to each other nearly daily on that text message thread. And it is daily, not nearly, it is daily. And a lot of it's joking around and different things like that, but that's what the camaraderie is, and that is what the brotherhood is. And and specifically that time frame in that year, and I don't mean to boast or say this in an arrogant manner, but I remember at the end of season when we landed some of the ex-Blue Angels that had been around for years and years from the 1970s and 60s. They even complimented on our demo. It was one of the best demos they had ever witnessed, and it was all driven from the leadership that we had at the time, from specifically Boss at the time, and he created this culture, he created this environment that was undescribable, made every single person feel special, made them part of the organization, part of the team, and it wasn't just the 6 Delta pilots; it was everyone. It was from our lowest ranking enlisted Marine or sailor to all the highest ranking, which is the pilots, on the team at that time next to him. All of us felt empowered. We all felt non-micromanaged. We all felt he treated us all like we're just part of the family. And then his spouse at the time, leading the wives, did the same. And our spouses thrived, and everybody. It was literally like one large family between the spouses, our kids, and the team. And one of the greatest things that I remember about being on the team, even 15, 16, and watching in 14 when I was a newbie going through the process, was, when you'd come home, flying in on a Sunday night and the sun's going down, it was like a homecoming from deployment every Sunday. And you would land, and as soon as the jets would shut down, all the kids and all the wives would run out of the ramp and jump in our arms, because we'd been gone all week. It was something so special that I'll never forget. We got so many pictures of our children running into my arms, and Missy standing there and giving we're hugging each other out on the ramp as the sun's going down there in Naval Air Station in Pensacola in beautiful weather, in the summertime. And that right there, creating an environment culture where everybody's feels like that is truly part of the organization and okay, it's okay to do that. That creates such a camaraderie. And that trust built on the ground immediately is organically bred in the air, and everybody performs better. Everybody executes their job more precisely. Everybody takes pride in their work and wants to be perfect in all that they do. And never a perfect demo, right? But that's something we always strive for. And it all started right there on the ground in our brotherhood and sisterhood that we had.
Well, yeah, and I watched the documentary that came out. I think it was last year, maybe the year before, but it was the Blue Angels, and you could see the bigger team and what made it all up. It's like the Rolling Stones couldn't do it without their roadies. It's like it takes a community to put that together, and the fact that you have to be so perfect and precise. Watching that documentary, there was a woman that was in charge of keeping everybody on track, and she would tell people where they were missing the boat on their maneuvers. And I'm thinking, gosh, to be able to see that much detail and to go into that much detail, it's just incredible.
In everything in life, it's about, leadership and kind of a top-down deal, and I'd like to know who the team leader was and find out what his background was, because that's a guy that really got it.
Oh, yeah.
And when they get it and it goes on down to everybody else, and having been a peon enlisted person, that kind of leadership matters, to know that you don't feel, I'm just a worthless cog in the machine. That all kinds of makes a difference. And then that filters into, what's going on at home. Are you teaching your kids, are you being an example? Because people, characteristically speaking, will emulate.
Yeah.
You will pick things out that you like from somebody and may pick up and do them. And
I think that's important too, even in and outside of your professional life too, at home as a husband and a father, is, finding those people that you want to emulate that are ahead of you in life in those chapters. And Tom Frosch is his name, Boss, and he's incredible, and he's one of my mentors even to this day. Like I talk to him about all kinds of stuff, even point to point, off the text thread and everything else. And and you could tell it wasn't fake. It was on the team, but it was behind his closed doors, because even now, you fast forward years down the road, like his kids were my kids' age when he was on the team. And now all of his kids are doing fantastic, thriving, and their family is thriving. And they're just a great witness. They're a great foundation for people to watch and see. And, and so I feel very privileged to be able to see families like that, that I have a goal to work towards, to have my kids grow up and thrive like that as well.
Yeah.
And
Especially when you've been tried by adversity.
absolutely. And so, but and I paint it like it's all sunshine and rainbows, but you're in winter training and you're flying 15 flights a week, and then it's the end of January, and you're out in the desert, and everybody has their disagreements, and the most important thing with disagreements is grace. And I know that I have to show grace to so many people each and every day, because people have shown me grace.
Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's right.
You got to share some with Kip there, please.
A lot. He's been, okay. Very good, Andy.
We've all been guilty, and I'm one of the most guilty people to, if you're losing your cool in the moment and emotions that are wrapped up in the situation. And guess what? You're all striving for the same common goal, and you just got to figure out which way, to balance and give and take. And that was on the team, all the time, every week, And now we come out the other end of it. We're all 10 years removed, 10, 11 years removed from it. And we're all best friends for life, And we've seen the worst side of each other at times. And which is awesome. It's okay, right? And that's even brotherhood right there, in my opinion. So
you get kind of, let's talk to a Blue Angel. We'll get the pat, speech and talk and whatever, but you're human beings.
Oh, yeah.
You've done a lot of really cool things, but it's nice to get to know the person, that wears the blue suit, jumps in an F-18 and does some amazing things with a plane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I was really scared when Kip told me that you were going to come on, Andy, because I was just afraid that I was going to fanboy out on you.
He's been mentioning that frequently.
No.
Yeah, I know.
Fanboy.
Because I just admire it so much. I admire what you do. I admire what Kip does. I think I told you when I was taking my flight lessons in Minneapolis, at the same time he was in the Air Guard. And while I was practicing stalls, he was breaking the sound barrier. And I could never measure up in my mind to, I'm not going to be a pilot. I'm a radio guy. That's what I'm going to do. But he had that passion that drove him, and he should not have gotten to where he is, and teaching people how to fly the big jet airplanes and 787s all around the world. From where he came to where he is now, and the fact that he still lets me talk to him. Oh, it's a great thing. Let me ask you about your kids. Have your kids, any of them, caught the flying bug?
Yes, I think so. And it's one of those things I always told myself, and as parents, I don't want to ever force anything on my children. I want them to make their own decisions. My oldest, he'll be 12 in March. He is bleeding naval aviation. He's bleeding fighter jets. He can't wait to take his first flight lesson, which tells me and my wife that as a team, family team, we did it right when we were in the service. And that's something when I was a commanding officer that I always tried to tell everybody is the organic retention and organic recruitment. Like what I meant by that was taking care of your people is step one in leadership. If we do this and you truly make everybody feel part of the team and you support them and empower your people and give everybody the opportunity to lead in any position within your organization, I want them to go home not to be upset. I don't want them to go home angry and stress over being in a toxic environment at work, because then they go home and they treat their spouse, their wife, or their husband appropriately, because they're not so exhausted over the emotions all day at work or frustrations. And they also come home and they're a better mother or father. And then their kids see that like, oh, my mom or dad is a hero in the service, and now that makes me want to serve, right? And so that's something that we took pride in as a married couple throughout the time we were in the Navy. And the fact that, my kids are all interested in it right now. And I think a lot of it is fed off my oldest, Noah, being so interested in it that my younger two boys are, and they're real young. And, my 7-year-old, I want to be a fighter pilot. That's what he says, and, he'll probably change his mind. Who knows? My youngest 4-year-old says the same thing. My daughter wants to be a doctor, and she said she wants to be in the Navy like her dad. And so she wants to be a Navy doctor. And so Noah and Cora, my two oldest, my daughter and my son, both want to go to the Naval Academy. They're already talking about it, and a lot of people laugh that off at that age. But I was 4, and so I embrace it, And we were actually down in Pensacola area for this past summer on vacation. We went to the museum. We always stop by there, and Cora was sitting in one of the mock-up cockpits and stuff, and then she said, "Daddy, do you think I could do this?" I'm like, "Absolutely, you can. You can do anything you want." Yeah. And so, but she's still definitely stuck on the doctor thing and Navy doctor, which is incredible. So we'll see where they all go. But yeah, they definitely have the bug, and I'd love for as soon as my son can touch the rudder pedals, get him in an airplane and
Fertilizer and water.
That's right.
Well, one of the things on my bucket list is going to see the homecoming air show there at Pensacola. The Blues do every year. And that's your last event of the year, right? You're coming home. You're going to see your family, and that must be quite a celebration, quite a show.
It is, especially if you're leaving the team. You've done that last salute. After you march back down, you do the drill from the jets, and you do that last salute. And it's just, I'll never forget the last salute I did, and it was almost, we experienced some adversity in 2016. You can kind of look those timelines up, but we lost a brother and everything that year. Yeah. But when we made that last salute, it is definitely one of those things. It's like you feel you're not sad to go. You left it all on the field, all the sweat and tears on the field. You gave 100% every single day. The only thing that you're mostly sad about is the brotherhood and sisterhood that you've created. Now you're all separate, parting ways. And 2016 was the same. We had a different dynamic in 2016, but we were all extremely close. We're all brothers and sisters on that team. We're very, very tight as well. So, but it was almost this like weight lifted off after that last salute, and it was bittersweet. But if you're on the team for another year, that last salute is just like, all right, chapter 1 or 2 complete, right into training phase here again in about a week. So, and you're put the pack back on immediately. So, and now you're in a new position, or you're the new training officer, or, things of that nature. So, or you're the new OPSO, so you got a lot on your plate coming in about a week.
So I looked it up. You did slot. Did you do left wing, right wing?
I did left wing in the slot, 3 and 4, what we call 3/4. The whole delta together, so you have the diamond. We joke around the real pilots in the air up there and flying the diamond spots. I'm just kidding, but that's our solo banter back and forth. You got the solos raging, across the show line in between the diamond maneuvers, and I could go on and on about those jokes, but we're all one team. It's great. And when we all come back together for the last about 10 minutes of the demonstration, 15 minutes of the demonstration, and we're in what we call the Delta, all 6 jets are together, there's a maneuver called the loop break cross, and it was a lot of fun. And you essentially do a loop and 6 jets doing a loop, and then you essentially point at the ground, and everybody goes their separate ways, breaks up. We all go out and do a half Cuban 8 and come back to show center and cross at show center stacked on top of each other. It was a lot of fun. And within the diamond, I would say there's another one called the low break cross, where we come up from behind the crowd, and we all break up and go separate directions, and it's all off timing and landmarks, and we all come back over and stack over the center point as well. That was a lot of fun, and kind of like a very more precise maneuver they're all very precise, right? The timing and stuff, but what they call the double farvel, where the slot pilot and boss roll inverted and go down the show line, and then the wingman join back up, and so we're upside down flying formation down the show line. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that maneuver. The Diamond 360 right at the beginning of the show, after we do our takeoff maneuvers, is a maneuver that we're really showing the precision, and we tuck it in really, really tight, and it gets closer and closer and closer throughout the demonstration. And as you come closer throughout the season for the demonstration, you become closer and closer. We fly different sets, and that's all in the training officer and everything to bring those sets closer and closer. But that's when we're really premiering the tight formation. And but there, the wingtips are inside 18 inches, and there are times where you could stick a 20-ounce bottle of water on top of the canopy, and it would touch the other wing. That's how close we are, especially the real smooth days. It's good.
This is so much fun, Andy. I'm just thrilled to have you here. And I want to have you back again because, you know, what we're trying to do with the Idiot Philosophers, Kip and I believe that most people are idiot philosophers. Nobody knows exactly what they're doing or talking about, but it doesn't stop them from sharing it.
Yeah.
And so we want to kind of create a community of people that enjoy discussing a wide range of topics and get everybody's individual take on it, because you're not going to have any two that come off the same or with the same opinion.
Poor Andy's working himself to the bone, flying. He's got his public speaking business, 4 kids, a wife, you know, and the fact that he took time out of his day to meet up and do this with us is beyond huge.
Back to what I was telling you about my story growing up, is not ever passing up a moment to where you can be an impactful, you know. And I never want to be on anything or public speaking anything or engagement or podcast to make it about me. I always want to be there to tell a story, to motivate and tell people that I had the worst possible scenario, you know, going through high school and college and financially. And, you know, you look at the stats, you know, 0, and a lot of it was self-induced at a young age for me, you know, lack of guidance, but whatever you want to call it. But I made some poor decisions even in high school and stuff, and I was very lucky to come out on the other end, very blessed. Mm-hmm. The Lord had his hand on me. And but to let people know that anything is possible. It really, truly is. And you can do anything that you want, and just don't take no for an answer. And find it, navigate it, finances, whatever it may be.
But, you know, Andy, I think the best part about what you're saying, and maybe would be something else to put into this, is like, you know, you've professed several times like, hey, I've made some bad choices and you know, maybe not been thinking with a clear head to do the right thing. You know what? Everybody has that in their life.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I'm a walking, talking mess. You know, well, don't laugh. You know it's true.
And if they say they haven't, they're wrong, because they know they have. They're lying.
But it's like, you know, and I say this to my kids all the time, hoping that they understand what I'm saying, is like, you're going to make mistakes. It doesn't matter. You continue to make a good choice. Yeah. Make a better choice next time.
Yeah. Adversity is university, is what I love to say.
Oh, dude,
and,
no lie.
You know, and I say that in all my like public speaking and things of that nature. And it's even when people are coming to you for advice and they're going through a tough time, you know, whether it's financially or leadership wise or maybe marriage wise or spiritual wise, whatever it is, it's something that I've always tried to use, is try to explain to them. And it's hard to really see that when you're going through adversity.
Yeah.
But it truly is.
Well, that's kind of where we're boiling down to the bottom line, where Charles and I are. Is it's like, you know, everybody's got something to give.
Yeah.
You count and matter, no matter where you've been, where you come from.
Absolutely.
Andy, we're going to have you back on another episode of The Idiot Philosophers, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I'm here for however many you want me on.
Enjoy your day, and we'll have you on again. Thank you, and thank your wife and your kids for allowing you to be
sharing
here too.
Oh, I'm thankful to be here, and I'm very humbled to be here. So thank you guys for your time. It's awesome.
They're the idiot philosophers. Charlie, Wilde, and Slats, Overspeed. Unqualified sages, advice you shouldn't heed. Pontificating unclear thoughts, it's plain to see. I didn't want to sing their song, but they begged.
Hit it. Flashback. More power. Zone factor. Hi, XXO. So high show, center point. Simple. Run. Save it out. Sonic 2. 50 right here, low, high show. Thanks, XO. High show, nice hit, man. Thank you.